Any requests? I can do requests. Okay.
I don't want to hear about that guy's hernia in the loop.
You don't want to hear about that?
Thank you.
It's a request that are going the opposite direction. A dequest. Would you please not do that? Okay. Just one second. Okay, I'll read you something about my my runners. So this is near the end where these runners have prepared for this 1,500 meter race, and the title comes from a famous race between Roger Bannister and John Landy in 1954, which happened in Vancouver, the Miracle Mile. And I invite you to go. Now they have a great thing of it. Before it was all copyrighted and you couldn't find it, but now it's on YouTube and you can actually watch the call of this race. I'll read you 2 pages, which are the end of the Miracle Mile and the start of the end of this race. So these 2 guys that I'm describing can both run sub 4 for a mile. They're sub 4 minute milers, but nobody cares about a sub 4 minute miler now. And he's interested in this idea of value, how value is built up. People in the crowd always wonder why the guy with the lead heading into the last lap almost never wins. They wonder why he can't hold on and why he can't look as good as he did just a minute earlier when he came flying by. Some people believe that myth about Roger Bannister and John Landy back when they ran the Miracle Mile in Vancouver in 1954. That was probably the only time in history when the whole world actually cared about 2 guys who could run a mile in under 4 minutes. Bannister was the first to do it, everybody knows that. But by the time they met in Vancouver, Landy had gone even faster. He was the new world record holder and most people were betting on him to win. You can look it up if you want. The Miracle Mile was pure craziness, the Tyson Holyfield of its time. Every country sent their reporters to cover this story, and more than 100 million people listened to the call on the radio. It was the first time CBC television ever broadcasted live from the West Coast. If you go to Vancouver today, the famous statue is still there, the one where Landy is looking over his left shoulder as Bannister comes by him on the right. The press, and the people who don't know anything, always say that if Landy had looked the other way, if only he had looked to the right, he would have seen Bannister coming, and he never would have let him go by. They call it the Phantom Pass, as if Landy was just a victim of bad luck and bad timing, as if Bannister was like some ghost slipping past unseen. That is the story they tell, but it is not true. If you ever watch a tape of that race, you'll see that poor Landy is dead before he even starts the last lap. It's one of those things you recognize if you have ever been through it yourself. When a guy is done, he is just done, and no amount of fighting can save him. The exercise physiology people will explain that it's all about lactic acid fermentation and how when you push your body beyond your limit, your legs run out of oxygen and the tissue starts to fill up with this burning liquid waste. We called it rigging, short for rigor mortis. When your body started to constrict, to tighten up involuntarily, first in your arms and your calves and then your quads and your hamstrings and your brain, when parts of you gave out like that, dying, right underneath you at the exact moment you needed something more, we called that rigging. Dawson was dying in front of us that day, and we could see it in every broken down step he took. Look back at that grainy black and white video of the Miracle Mile. You will see it. Landy was not taken by surprise. He knew exactly where Bannister was coming from. He just couldn't do anything to stop it. For that whole last lap, Bannister is right behind, tall and gangly and awkward and just waiting to decide when he's going to go. When Landy looked to his left, in that moment they made into a statue. He was not trying to hold on for the win. That possibility was gone, and he knew it. People forget that Richard Ferguson, a Canadian finished third in the Miracle Mile. And he is the important missing character, the one who didn't make it into the statue. Ferguson was the threat, coming up from behind. He was the guy Landy feared. It's always like that. The most interesting stories in most races don't have anything to do with winning. I understand that sometimes people get their priorities mixed up. And I know that when you give yourself over completely to just one thing, you can lose perspective on the rest of the world. That is a feeling I know. I think it's what happens to those old ladies who donate their life savings to corrupt televangelists, or to those pilgrims in the Philippines who compete for the honor of being nailed, and I mean actually hammered, to a cross for their Easter celebrations. We have to scrounge for meaning wherever we can find it, and there is no way to separate our faith from our desperation. You see it everywhere. Football hooligans, scholars of Renaissance poetry, fans of heavy metal music, car buffs, sexual perverts, collectors of all kinds, extreme bungee jumpers, lonely physicists, long-distance runners, and tightly wound suburban housewives who want to make sure they entertain in just the right way. All of us. We can only value what we yearn for, and it really does not matter what all the others think.